All right, I said at the start that one of the themes that we're going to be looking at today is adventure and experiential travel, which is enjoying huge growth, particularly among affluent travelers. In 2015, safari and adventure accounted for almost half of the overall luxury travel market, and that desire for off-the-beaten-track destinations and authentic, immersive experiences continues to rocket. Discerning customers are shying away from fly-and-flop holidays in favor of bespoke itineraries. And as we all know, it's often those luxury brands that are the first to trial new destinations and experiences. Well, our next speaker is often referred to as the pioneer of experiential travel. His career is extensive. He has traveled to over 180 countries and flown 17 million miles, turning many of his adventures into holidays now featured by his own travel company. He was inducted into the British Travel Industry Hall of Fame in 2012, credited at the time for creating experiential travel. And he's written a brilliant book, Safari, a memoir of a worldwide travel pioneer. And I'm delighted to say that he's given a copy of that book to every single one of you today, and that will be in your goodie bags when you leave later on this afternoon. He's going to talk to you now, and then he's going to make some time for a Q&A, so if you have any burning questions for him, then please do put them to him. It is my enormous pleasure to welcome the founder of Abercrombie and Kent, ladies and gentlemen, Geoffrey Kent.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's really a privilege to be invited to what's the time now? Okay. Really a privilege to be invited to talk with all of you about this wonderful travel industry and above all adventure travel. Of course, the Royal Geographic Society is the shrine of exploration, and where I got my original inspirations as a young guy to actually develop this kind of travel, which I've been doing with Abercrombie and Kent all my life. I first came to England to the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst. That's another story. My father wanted to punish me, which was a bit unusual to go to the military, but that's what he did. And so I had no family here, and so I'd wander into this beautiful building. Some of you may know, I was born in Africa and grew up in Kenya. So I'm a Kenyan-born, school-educated kid, and arrived here. And so I was always very interested as a young guy. All about my real heroes were African explorers. So the minute I got to England, I came up to the Royal Geographic Society and started to look at Livingstone and Speke and Burton and Lugard and all these others. But my real favorite was an explorer called Joseph Thomson. And actually, you should all look into him. He did amazing things. In his 20s, he did two expeditions between 1878 and 1883. From the hinterland of Eastern Africa, from the coast of Eastern Africa into the hinterland of Africa, and in his 20s. And of course, whenever he got to Kilimanjaro, he met the Maasai, and the Maasai stopped him going any further. So he started to come up with these little tricks to get by. He pretended he was a magician, and he'd hoax them all, and then he'd take out his false teeth, expecting them now to take his orders and move. They didn't. So he went all the way back again, came again. The next time, he came with an electric shock machine. And he challenged the chief, all right, to this wrestling match. The chief came out, grabbed his hand, the chief went backwards like that, crashed to the floor, and the Maasai said, well, we better let this guy through. So he then went on to create his great expedition. He tried to climb Kilimanjaro in a day, and obviously didn't succeed. But so what I learned about Joseph Thomson and studying here was, I want to be an explorer so much. That's what I'd like to do. I really would like to do that. Then I realized that I've got to have some DNA of exploration within me. And then I thought, I bet everybody else has this feeling of exploration in them. So if I could go out in the world and create these explorer-type trips, wow, it would sell like hotcakes. It would be a really, really good thing. But I'd have to take the danger out of it. I'd have to do it all myself. And so that's the actual inspiration of it actually came in this building. So it's a very great privilege for me to give my first talk here. I've done an interview in here with Richard Leakey, my old school friend, but I've never actually given a talk. So let me go back and really go back to 55 years when I started Abercrombie and Kent, when I was born in Kenya, to give you some sort of a thumbnail sketch of how I've been injecting adventure into luxury, which I think has created, and I was listening to the talk today, all the different aspects of luxury, what they like or don't like about it, but I think that's created luxury adventure travel. I think that's, and now we call it experiential travel, which is the fastest form of travel in the world today. And of course, I love it. That's wonderful. So going back quickly, I was born in Lusaka in Zambia, along the Lusaka General Hospital, along with Wilbur Smith. And I'm sure you've all read Wilbur Smith's book. So Wilbur and I celebrate that we're the only two people we know who were ever born in that hospital, right? So from there, I was born by mistake. My parents were on safari. And so I went back to Kenya. And I grew up in Kenya. As a young child, grew up on farms. And that gave me the inspiration, because we were always traveling, horseback riding, shooting, everything, which we did in those days. And then I had a bit of a problem. I was thrown out, expelled from school when I was 16. And so I drove a motorbike. And I was the first to drive a motorbike all the way from Nairobi to Cape Town, which is about 5,000 miles away. I went and got lost and fell over the Zambezi River. All these stories in the book, by the way. So, I was the first to get Nairobi to Cape Town when I was 16. When I got back, my father said, you have no discipline, you're hopeless, you need guidance, you go to the perfect place. It's called the Royal Military Academy Santa. So that's how I ended up in the academy. During that time, we lost all of our farms in 1962 in Kenya. They got independence, we left, and so we formed, my mother, my father, myself, we formed Abercrombie and Kent in 1962. And it consisted of Abercrombie, which was a made-up name. There's never been an Abercrombie. AB put us top of the yellow pages, which was great. I pretended he was a really wealthy partner. I always wanted to be with rich people, all right? I had no money, so he's the guy with the cash. Don't worry, you come with me. And so Abercrombie, the mythical Abercrombie was formed, and we had one Land Rover, 100 quid, and I had big dreams of what we were going to do, right? So that was it, 1962. Nairobi, Kenya, Vedic House, one office. That was it. And so we started, and I realized straight away, in those days, everybody was coming hunting. That was the only reason people came to Kenya in the 50s. Photography was just coming in. I said, you know what? I want to be a photographic company. I want to shoot with a camera, not with a gun. That became my big slogan. And so we started photographic safaris. But they were, you know, to go to a lodge was so tame as opposed to the excitement of going on a hunting safari with the big, not shooting the animals, but the big trucks and the Bedfords and the 4x4s and wilderness and everything. So I got this into my head. So I said, why can't I create a camp like a hunting camp, put all the luxuries in it, and then we go photographing that way rather than going to these silly self-service camps, lodges. And so I did, but the problem was refrigeration. There was no refrigeration, but I used my army background. I brought down an engineer, and we put together all this refrigeration, and I made the tents look like a hotel bedroom, and I went to Muthaiga Country Club. Has anyone here been to Muthaiga Country Club? And you know how smart it is and very fancy and everything, right? So I actually had this brilliant idea. I decided to take the chef and the barman and the maitre d', all right? I took them all, offered them twice the money. They all left with me, and that became my crew in my camp. I was blackballed from Muthaiga Club for about a year, but that's another story. So then I was off on this whole idea. I was listening today, luxury is all about service and about clean sheets, but we did that in the camp. So I was the first to develop the first camp in the world. If you look at all the camps today, that was the first one, 1966. We rolled out the Bedford trucks, and we did all that. So that became the basic. Then Mount Kenya Safari Club was becoming very popular then. This is about 60s. And I wanted to get people, I thought, how do they go there for 2 weeks and say the Mount Kenya Safari Club and have their hair done every day and look at the silly birds wandering around the beautiful manicured gardens? So I got Bill Holden to give me a desk in the Safari Club, and then I'd persuade everybody at lunches, you've got to do something unusual. So I came up with called the off-the-beaten-track safaris, which was probably the beginning of experiential travel as you did today, because I wanted to put all the excitement and adventure into it. So this is the ideas I came up with. A Northern Frontier one to see the big elephant called Ahmed. Each tusk weighed 128 pounds a tusk, and he couldn't move. He just put his tusk down like that. We then went mountain climbing. We climbed Kilimanjaro, and we did Mount Kenya, and we did the Ruwenzori, who had a mountain climbing department. We then had trekking. We had camels up in the north, And I think there was some polo. I was a big polo player all my life, you see. But the polo ponies cost a lot of money. And so in the off-season, I said, why do we have horseback safaris? So along with a guy called Tony Church, we developed the first horseback safaris, a company called Safaris Unlimited with Tony, which paid for the polo ponies in the off-season. We had amazing adventures across all the plains in Africa. In those days, there was nothing there. You just did whatever you wanted. Richard and I, remember we go and slap rhinos on the backside. Can you imagine? And that's what we used to do. That was fun. Now, find a rhino is really difficult now. So that was a horseback riding safari. Then I went diving all the archipelago off Lamu. I love to dive. So we dived all of those different islands there. And then I created a train called the Iron Snake. I went to the museum, got all those big locomotives out, had them all mended, brought about 16 people up, and we did trains. So those are all the off the beaten track. And also went down to the Congo, went down and saw the gorillas, was first to see gorillas, I think, before even Diane Fossey, at the same time as Diane Fossey, and a guy with Alan Root was there, and I created the first gorilla tracking safaris ever, which has all materialized as we've gone along. So that was off the beaten track, and it was really exciting and fun, and everybody who did it loved it. The problem was I couldn't get the message out to everyone. It was like, how do I sell this? Nobody got it. And they thought, they always accused Steve Jobs of distorted reality. All my friends in Nairobi said Jeff is distorted. How he thinks. That was in those days. People want to go out of lodges and go and look at gorillas at these camps and do all this, go down canoeing and get charged by hippos and do walking in the Mara. It was, far away. So I said, I've got to sell this. So I opened an office in London in 1972 and brought the message right here to the people, and opened in the United States in 1976. In a barn, all my polo ponies underneath, me, one assistant, and myself selling safaris in 1976. Then in 1978, I persuaded Colin Marshall and John King, Lord King, that I should handle all the British Airways holidays. And so that was the stroke of genius, if ever there was one. They agreed and they let me. So I was then able to package these crazy trips broadly through the whole British Airways. It was an amazing coup. And so then I got going, because now I had distribution. And all of you, it's no good building a product if you haven't worked out your distribution first. Get the distribution right, then build the product. Otherwise, it takes forever to sell. So once I had that going, then I opened up Kichwa Tembo in the Maasai Mara quite quickly, and we had all the activities, always activities. Walking, going down the river until hippo charge. We stopped doing that one. Night safaris until we stopped doing that one. And then we built the first camp with a pool, swimming pool, which seemed unheard of, but it was the very, very first one, Kichwa Tembo. And then from that, we always have believed in sustainability. And I know I've been listening to the conversations here, but you have to always work with the communities. I've always had that in mind. And Friends of Conservation, I started in 1982. I got Prince of Wales, Prince Charles, to be the patron of it. Richard Leake, who's on my board of directors, along with somebody called Bill Ntamama, a very powerful chief. And from the beginning, we brought in the Maasai into all of that. We focused on education for the Maasai. We focused on the environment, and we focused about money. Get money to the local community, not the government, not the county councils, to the community. They're getting money from the animals. They will save those animals. And so we've been doing that. I know it's a big thing. Everyone starts talking about it today. We've been doing that since 1982. And that has morphed into Abercrombie and Kent Philanthropy. And if you go on our website, you'll see the huge amount of work we do all over the world with the communities, and always getting them to support and save the animals. That's what it's all about. So after Kichwa Tembo, I then decided to go further afield. And I went up to Egypt, and I thought, I actually was David Niven when we were shooting Death on the Nile. I thought, wow, it'd be really cool to have a boat up here. There were two in those days, the Memnon and the two Nile boats. And I said, I'll create a small one. And I saw the Memnon, which they filmed Death on the Nile in, which David Niven was on. And it was a brilliant idea. I'll take that over. And I'll make it for Abercrombie and Kent. So I took it over, an old paddle steamer like this, old engine. And clients got out there, a huge group from New York, and my guy called me up, said, it's great, beautiful ship, so romantic, wonderful. Like 3 hours later, he called me back, this is a nightmare. I said, what's a nightmare? Well, they've just started the engines. And so what happened? So a black soot went up in the air like a nuclear cloud, right? They're all sunbathing, and all this soot has landed all over them, right? They're full of soot, dirt, nothing works, none of the toilets work. This ship, Jeff, have you ever been on this ship? I said, yes, I have. Did you go on it when it was moving? No, I haven't. Well, it's never moved for about 50 years, that's why. And so we had to evacuate everybody, fly them all home. It was a disaster, you know. And so, but I went on to create Sunboat 1, because I knew it was a good idea. And Sunboat 1 was my first small ship on the Nile with a swimming boat, with a swimming pool. And then we went on to create them with pools and spas and all the comfort and elegance and food and wine, dining. That went on to be Sunboat 1, 2, 3, and 4 in Egypt. And then I went on to China. I thought, my father had this great expression when I was a kid. We said, where are we going this summer holidays? And he used to say, where you can't drink the water. I used to get so excited. That meant, wow, really dangerous. If you can't drink the water, that's like saying, that was it. So I said, I'm going to go where you can't drink the water. One of the places you couldn't drink the water in the 70s was China. Nobody went to China. So in 1979, again, it's in my book, I said, I'll go to China. And I actually went in as an Ethiopian. That's another story, but I got in as an Ethiopian. And I went for 67 days. Nobody had even been, let alone 67 days. There was only one hotel, and I lived in army barracks. I was accompanied by an army major who went with me everywhere, and the head of tourism. I went everywhere in China, even up to Tibet, all over Tibet. And at the end, halfway through, one of them said, so when are you going out for R&R? I said, I don't want R&R, I love it. Really? You need R&R, you've been here too long. I said, no. So I said it till the end, I said, we have to reward you for being, spending so much time and understanding our country so well. What would you like? Well, at that time, they were already doing group holidays into China. But nobody had a right to bring individuals in. So I said, would you give me the right to bring individuals, FITs, into China? And actually, I got that. So that's when we opened up our Hong Kong office in the early, about 1981, 82. Patrick McLeod, many of you may know him, headed up that office. And we were the first to bring individuals into China. And so we really pioneered all of China from that time on. China, done that. So we got Egypt, China. This is all around product. And then I was giving a lecture all about African safaris, and I said to everybody at the end of the day, so who wants to go on an African safari? And like 2 people put their hands up. I said, who wants to go to Europe? This is to Americans, sorry. And everyone put their hand up. I said, oh, we've got to be in Europe. I've got to go to Europe. I'm going to sell 2 or sell 98, Europe. So I then went, but it was hard. How are we going to develop something unusual? So we created something whereby all your bags would be put in the train. And we came up with this thing called the traveling bellboy. And so the traveling bellboy would go with all your luggage ahead of you, and then you could come on the train. So we didn't have to have Mercedes everywhere. Then we moved into France, and we created barges in France, luxury barges. Again, I wanted activities rather than sitting in it, so we put the bicycles on the back. And then Buddy Bombard, who was a very good friend of mine, created the ballooning trips. Some of you may remember those some time ago. So we had balloons. So we went on the barges with bicycles and balloons, and we ate and we fed, but we got a lot of activity too. So that was a very, very good concept. We started off with 3 barges. England, we were the first to really come up with the whole Pride of Britain idea, all the small country homes. We represented the Pride of Britain in the United States. And again, we're going back to the FIT, small luxury type properties. Then I said we should do all of Europe. We became a one-stop shop for Europe. And then we needed guardian angels. I heard all the lovely stories about butlers, and I couldn't agree more. They can be really a nuisance. However, if you have somebody you can call, like our guardian angel, you have their number. So if you want them to book you a restaurant or get a car, it's always really, really important. So we built all of Europe around our guardian angels. Then went on to the villa business. One of villa businesses went into trouble, I think I don't know why, but we bought a small villa company, and we expanded our villas, but we made them like the headquarters, like the old Mount Kenya safari days, that you'd be here, and then you'd have your guide come in, a helicopter can come in, plane can come in, and you can get out of the villa and use it and see all the surrounding areas. This was a very, very good idea, because until that time, villas, you literally walked in, you had 6 eggs, 2 pints of milk, and you were left in this villa in the middle of nowhere. Now you could have proper food, proper catering, chefs, and it was really good. And our villa business has expanded tremendously as a result. This is great. We really put all of our knowledge of destination management companies around the villas. So we did the villas. Then we've been motoring quite a lot. So we did the villas. Then next came Concord. Again, Colin Marshall, and he thought we'd done a fantastic job for British Airways Holidays, which we had, by the way, expanded dramatically with this new kind of travel. So I went to him one day, and he was thanking me at dinner. I remember it very well. Colin Marshall, John King was an amazing personality, Lord King. I said to him, "Sir, I want to take the Concorde." He said, "What do you want to do with the Concorde, Jeff?" I said, "I want to do a wing. I want to do an air safari around the world by Concorde." I said, "That would be so cool, imagine." And John King, who always smoked his cigar, I didn't care whether there was no smoking or not, turned to Colin Marshall. "So what do you think, Colin?" Colin said, "I don't know, sounds an interesting idea." So long story short, we pioneered the Concorde around the world trips in the British Airways Concorde, which were amazingly successful, always filled up, and was fantastic, which led on to my later thing. So we did the Concorde. Then I decided to build wanted to get into more adventure cruising. And I'd always loved the little red ship, and it came into my hands. That was the old Explorer, we would call Little Red Ship. And we did some huge adventures in there. We took it like 500 miles up the Amazon, places we'd never been before. My German captain was horrified as we came down, trying to miss all the sandbars coming back. We took it into Antarctica, and this little tiny ship with the Drake Passage, where not like today, we have stabilizers and all that stuff. It was like 40 to 60-foot waves, and it was a hairy little episode. You just wish for Shackleton when you were crossing over into the Antarctic. In those days, you couldn't even get to Ross Island. Today, you can circumnavigate Ross Island, so climate change, by the way, is here, because I was there in those days, and I've been there more recently. So on that ship, we did the Northwest Passage. Of course, everybody's now heralding the first to do the Northwest Passage. We were doing it way, way back then with the Little Red Ship. Again, it was very exciting, very, very hairy, and people were really adventurous on that. So our adventure cruising has really expanded. But we built great naturalists, great guides, and we still have those guides and naturalists, and we now charter the ships, and you all know we have the Boreal, which does some amazing trips to Antarctica with these incredible, because everything's about who you're with. The naturalists and guides are much more important, actually, than the croissants or the hairdressing. That's important. But to actually be with somebody who understands Antarctica, knows all about the albatross and the birds and the whales and everything else is really, really important. We also do the Arctic, and we also do the Northwest Passage. But these days, an absolute luxury, but keeping the old days of the knowledge. I call it soft learning. We want people to learn a lot, but not force them to learn. So adventure cruising we pioneered it, and I think it's one of our strongest divisions today. Then we went on to Sanctuary, and I tried to reinvent the whole of lodges and camps all over Africa, and we created Sanctuary retreats. And we started to build camps and lodges, as I say, all over Africa. We went on from Kichwa we went on to Olonana. We built properties in Tanzania. I can't go into them all now. Botswana. We have an amazing property there called Chiefs Camp in the Okavango. Don't know if you've ever been there, but we just rebuilt it, reopened it. Probably one of the best camps or lodges in the world. All of this we do around sustainable tourism. Really, really important. I think maybe us Africans have led the way here. And somebody else was saying they've been to African camps. We take this as number one, the most important thing you do. Because if we don't sustain the animals, we don't have the animals, and we go bankrupt with the camp. It's really straightforward, all right? So Sanctuary really expanded. We moved it onto rivers. We went and built a river ship on the Yangtze River, a 5-star boat there. We built a new one 2 years ago on Sanctuary Ananda in the Irrawaddy in Burma, in Myanmar. We went to Galapagos. We had our own ship, the Eclipse. And Galapagos is a wonderful destination if you haven't been there, especially for kids and families. Really amazing. And so we expanded Sanctuary quite considerably, and are still expanding it with new ideas. But again, I like to go where the fish swim, where there's something, tourists would like to see it, but you need comfort there. And so I do actually have a vehicle within Sanctuary to accomplish that. Then we went back to my recent one, which is Inspiring Expedition. Well, one in between them. We went to NK Space. And everybody started to talk about space in the 2000s. Everyone's going to be up first into space. I said, we have to be there. And so I created Abercrombie and Kent Space. I hired a scientist from Blackbird Project, all right, knew everything, brought a whole team with him, had like 20 people, so cool. Went out in the Mojave Desert, saw the Ansari Prize, met with all these guys like Bezos and Richard Branson, all these people doing this. And I thought, well, we're all pursuing. But I've had one motto since I started Abercrombie and Kent. I always do it first. So I didn't say that. Earlier on, if I have an idea, I do it first and then try and get the danger out of it, put in logistics and a great guide, which covers the last mile, and then you market it. But you have to do it yourself. Otherwise, you'll never know. And so I said, and also gives me a great chance to do more adventures, of course. And so we set up this, and then where can I try this? Where can I go and try space out myself before anybody's going to space, apart from taking the $35 million ticket, that one. And so actually I went down to South Africa. I said, I'll get as near as I can. So I went to South Africa, and they had the English Electric Lightning plane, and some of you have heard of that plane. It's a Mach point. It goes Mach 2.2, amazingly fast. It's really a rocket ship. It was an interceptor owned by the Royal Air Force in the 60s, and it goes from 0 to 40,000 feet in 1 minute. And then it goes up to about 70,000 feet, and you can see Earth, the corner of Earth. Anyhow, I had to go for training. I had to do 2 weeks of training, because it only takes 2 people. Had to learn a lot of things. I wasn't going to fly it, but actually he let me fly a little bit in the end. And then we took off. And I'll never forget, early in the morning, like 5 in the morning, we're taxiing out the runway in Cape Town. This marvelous South African pilot who'd be training me, and he has the canopy up, and I'll try and use my best South African accent because I grew up in Kenya and South Africa. And he said, right, Geoffrey, this is the moment we can stop. We can stop right now. It's early in the morning, and nobody will see us go back. Maybe that's what we should do. I said, no. I've spent 2 weeks. We're doing all this for a microphone, right? At the end of a runway, this huge thing, blistering heat and playing out. I said, no, I've come this far. I've got to go. He said, are you sure? And I said, yes. He said, right, okay. Remember the last thing. If there's a problem, I'm going to count 1. I'm going to count 2. And there's no 3, because I'm gone and you're captain of the ship. I said, I got it. Let's go. So anyhow, we did that trip. And at the end of it, this is why I like to do things my first. I took on like 6 Gs, because you didn't have a flight suit. It was about 6 Gs. And I felt really, your knees were so wobbly, and I got tired. I said, my God, how are my tourists ever going to be able to handle this, right? And I thought about it, and in the end, I decided that we couldn't go on with this. And I canned the whole program. I called the Blackbird scientists. I said, do you think we'll ever have an accident in this? And the scientist said, well, of course. I said, no, what do you mean, of course? He said, 100% chance of having an accident in space. I said, really? And he said, yes. So I canned that whole thing in 2004, I think it was. And I shut down NK Space and said that will not be one of my visions of product for that reason. And so the final thing I've been doing is inspiring expeditions. How much longer have I got for a minute? I've got 5. I hope you're all thinking of questions, all right? I'll go 5 minutes on this. So I kept on saying, how do we raise the bar? We've done everything. I've got camps, I've got lodges, I've got ships, can't go into space. I've shut that down. And then I thought, I'm going to go back to where I began and do an Inspiring Expeditions by Geoffrey Kent. I'm going to lead the most unusual trips to all the places where no airlines go at present. And we started with an around-the-world tour, and we took a plane, 757, 200 ER. We put in 50 first-class seats, all made in Milan. Beautiful. We take the plane out of service 10 days. Then we bring in the top chefs, top Michelin 2 chefs. We have doctors. Money is absolutely no object in deliverance. And we go to the most unusual places on Earth, which include, Easter Island, to Rangiroa, to Solomon Islands, to the southern Philippines, to the Gobi Desert, Mongolia, Uzbekistan, Samarkand, Greenland, Tasmania, Nepal, go to Base Camp Everest in helicopters, and so it goes on. And you'll see it all under Inspiring Expeditions. Take 25 days. We've run 2 already. My wife and I have run 2, and they've all been totally filled, totally successful. And we leave again in October on the next one, and they sell out literally within 3 weeks. And so it just proves that there's a huge amount of exploration left in anybody for something unusual. We have a team of 4 people who work all year planning this. So it's not easy. So we have the best wines when we land. We have the best chefs there, and the teams leapfrog each other. We have one of 25 days, and we have one of 10 days. And we just finished one to Palau. I know some of you say they dived. If you like to dive, best place on earth. I took a super yacht all the way from Monaco to Palau. Each of us had a dive instructor. Well, it was an amazing time, and we saw waters like you'd never seen before. Sadly, our oceans are warming, our reefs are dying. 90% of the barrier reef in Australia is already dead, you know? And so I hope with my inspiring expeditions, I'm going to be, by using logistics and all the knowledge I've done, we're going to go to all the places yet which have not been spoiled, have not been ruined, which gives me a really good excuse to go and do it. And obviously people like to come and do it too. So that's really what I've been doing ever since I came in here. Since I was 17. Somebody said to me the other day, we've got 5 minutes left? Okay, somebody said the final thing, said to me the other day, I said, so what are you doing? I had one of these great and good type dinners. And I said, he said, I've been in business all my life, I'm going to retire soon. I said, what are you going to do then? He said, I want to learn how to play tennis, I want to go mountain climbing, I want to go horseback riding, I want to go diving, and everything else. So then he turned around to me and said, so what about you? I said, no, I've been doing that all my life. Anyhow, who has some questions? Any questions? Yes.
What makes Abercrombie and Kent different from any other luxury travel company?
I think what makes it different is real passion and real knowledge. Most travel companies today have erred on the side of finance. They have to make money. We still, still private. I still run it. All I care about is the client and the product. The money actually, by the way, comes in anyway. You don't have to focus it all around money and bottom line. It just comes in. But so it's really, and we have fabulously passionate people, not just up here, me, our tour managers are amazing, and we give them lots of time to travel on Abercrombie and Kent trip. Because when you call a travel company, you want knowledge, first-hand knowledge. You could ask me, I think, any question on any country in the world today, and I'll tell you probably personally. I don't have to go to an iPhone or look it up on an iPad what the answer is. I know it. And our people do too. So it's leadership, and we have like today Abercrombie & Kent has 60 offices around the world, and we have 2,800 staff, and all from the one Land Rover Nairobi. So it's quite a big company. Yeah.
As such a well-travelled gentleman living all over the world and your experiential experiences, where do you consider your favourite holiday destination, and why?
Where's the favourite holiday, right?
But for you personally.
Oh, for me personally. Well, my favourite holiday is somewhere where I've never been before, all right? I can't answer that. The next one, if we go over that one, I still think, it seems ridiculous after all these years, but there's nothing beats an African safari. To see the wildebeest migration in the Mara, in June, July, August, or assembling 1.56 million on the Serengeti is amazing. So I still think an African safari, but a lot of activity. I don't like this business of just sitting in a car. So go and track a gorilla, then do something like Botswana is amazing. Go to Zambia, do the night driving, you can do all the walking still, then go to Mozambique, to some of the wonderful islands of Bazaruta Channel, I heard somebody else discussing earlier. Great diving there. So I like a lot of activities all the time.
Sorry, unquestionably a huge success story, but I'm interested to know what's your biggest mistake that you've learned the most from?
The biggest mistake, we have mistakes all the time. The problem is, when you're a pioneer, pioneering equals mistakes. So the key thing, that's why I do it myself. Because, wow, thank God we didn't have clients with us on this one. We're now going to do a great trip to Kamchatka. Does anyone know where Kamchatka is? But yeah, okay. But, where choose is impossible, but I go myself. So, wow, thank goodness we're not with clients. So we make mistakes, but we correct it very, very fast. And we have all these offices, so there's always somebody near. In the old days, there was just one office. Now there's 60 to draw on. And, the story I told you about, the Nile boat, that was a mistake. We're very, very careful today. We operate 24/7. We have people on the phone day and night. And because we're on the ground, we stop mistakes happening. I call it the last mile. Most travel agents, here I get competitive, most travel companies have no ground offices. Ours are not franchised, they're owned. They report in every day. So we have 2,800 people reporting to me through our systems, and so we know instantly if something's not right. And the clients, by the way, I welcome them to have my cell phone number, they have my email, and they will email me or cell phone me anytime, day or night, saying, we're not happy with this. So everybody knows that, and they don't want me to get the call, so everybody tries harder. And they're passionate. They love it. It's not like going to work. A&K is like a holiday. It's a fantastic company. Right, Kerry? Look, I mean, you look like 18, so, you know. Kerry runs the wonderful managing director of all of the UK and Europe. Any other questions? Yes.
The 25-day trip around the world sounds incredible. I just wonder what was the age range of the clients who booked it and how much it costs?
Okay, so what shall I do first? Maybe the age is easier to absorb than the cost, right? Okay. The age is amazing. Actually, they vary. And that was so surprised. I was worried about that on my first trip. How am I going to handle these people? But they range from 35-year-olds who made their money usually in LinkedIn or IT, somewhere one was on a honeymoon, 45-year-olds who inherited a lot of money and want to travel in this sort of way. But the majority are 60-year-olds, 65-year-olds, but they all get on extremely well. Why? Because they wouldn't do this trip unless they have a passion. And by the way, the cost is $145,000 a head, and for 48 people. And it sells out within 3 weeks. But I always, in my opening dinner, I have this little talk with them. We sit down, and I do this talk. I said, listen, we're about to do this amazing exploration trip. But if any of you here, and I look at them like this, are whingers or whiners, all right? Whingers or whiners, then, you know, this is not going to have 4 seasons in every place. But you'll have the experience. You can complain about the experience, but not about the accommodation. Although we've covered you, but if you like that, hand your money in now and you don't come with us. So that's my first talk with them. And I'm on the trip anyhow. We have our best guides. And we have never, honestly, we've done 3 trips now, we have never had an argument or a problem, nothing. Because, again, we had the best guides. And I think everybody is so enthralled. I mean, we went to Samarkand, and we shut down Regiment Square. Has anyone here been to Samarkand? Samarkand in Uzbekistan? You've got to go. Well, okay, you've got to go. I mean, Samarkand is a beautiful place. And we shut down the square. We flew in a 105-piece orchestra in from Tashkent. And they played. And the government let us shut down the whole place. I ordered the full moon, of course. The full moon came out. We had beautiful weather. And they played. I mean, everyone was crying. It was a magical moment. So we're trying to do, and that's, what you've got to do, all of you are here in the industry, and I think it's your job actually to change people's lives. Experiential travel should change people's lives, and that's what you've got to do. I mean, I took Bill Gates and Melinda Gates in 1993. He'd never traveled before. I went to see him. He said, where should I go? I said to him, where have you been? He said, oh, I've only been to Europe with a blanket over my head. Oh, wow, that's a tall task. So in the end, I took him to Africa. We got an amphibious plane. And we took him to see Lucy in Ethiopia, and Richard Leakey, so we had both scientists and everything. That trip in 1993, all right, never been anywhere, just been to Europe with a blanket over his head. That experiential trip has changed the world, changed Africa, because he and Melinda saw the poverty that was there. We were showing Friends of Conservation, Abercrombie and Kent Philanthropy, what we were trying to do. And they took it all on board, and they came back, and they formed the Bill Gates Foundation. And the rest is history, from one simple safari. So that's the power of everybody in this room. Don't just sell a normal trip. You know, try and get them, the clients who are going to do something adventurous, change their lives. Any other question? Yep.
How are the twins doing?
I'm sorry?
How are the twins doing?
Oh, they're doing fine. My wife's very tired. She's, yeah, they're doing very well, thank you.
Are they travelers?
Yeah?
Are they travelers? Have you got
Oh, yes, they've already traveled transatlantic at a month old. They've been to Monaco twice. Yeah, once. No, they're traveling. They'll have their first trip already being mapped out now.
If you look ahead 10 years, what do you think the industry will be like in 10 years' time? I'm sure you'll still be going, Geoffrey, but where do you think we'll be traveling to, and how will we be doing it?
You know, I go to all these panels about 10 years' time, and everybody's always talking about the internet and how it's going to actually destroy the travel industry, and It'll be just masses. It'll be Airbnb and Uber. And I went to this whole talk the other day for about a day. And at the end of the day, I put up my hand and said, can I ask a question? All these techies were there. And I said to them, I haven't heard anybody in this room yet. It was all about making money and about this and about that. Nobody here has mentioned, what do the clients want? Nobody's once mentioned that in this whole talk. And so I believe that knowledge, specialist knowledge will always survive and will always outstrip the internet. We're growing this year at 20%. That's with the internet going full bore. Or we grow at 20%. And Kerry can get up and say I'm wrong, but she knows I'm right, but we are. So why? Because we're supplying a product that nobody else can buy on the internet. You want to go and book Uzbekistan on the internet and arrive there and see what happens, right? You really want to go and dive with a whale shark in the Philippines and something happens? You go try it. No, you want to have a 24/7 number to call. You want to talk to an expert. If you want to go to Palau, you need to go with experts. So expertise will always win out. And so I think there's tons of room for travel. It will continue. And we've got to be very careful of mass tourism, that it actually doesn't destroy tourism. Because a lot of us have, the cultures can destroy local cultures quite badly. So I'd rather have high yield, low impact tourism than mass tourism with low yield. But that's personally. That's it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. Wow, amazing, amazing stories. I think we can all agree that Geoffrey's career has been a fascinating one. I hope it's inspired everybody in this room to see more of the world.